did Muhammad exist? Let's find out. So, first of all, the Muhammad mythicism is just what that means is the idea that Muhammad didn't exist, right? And then Muhammad historicism would be the idea that he did exist. What's the relevance and the purpose of us giving this presentation? I guess I don't have a personal investment in Muhammad, like a say a religious investment. So maybe for me, I have no skin in the game. So it might not be as sort of fun and interesting if you were more invested. But for me, I just think it's a sort of a fun and interesting sort of like a thought experiment. The second thing is that this is a pretty popular view. Like there are some sort of videos and podcasts and things sort of proposing this kind of idea. So this is maybe a second reason. And then the third reason is that I think there's actually something useful here sort of pedagogically. What does a good argument look like and what does a bad argument look like? Or what does a good explanation look like and what does a bad explanation look like? There's something useful about that beyond the specific content, if that makes sense. Another thing that we want to address is sort of criteria for existence or criteria for non-existence. In other words, what do we mean when we say Muhammad existed or Muhammad didn't exist? What does that actually mean? There are sort of edge cases here where it's pretty straightforward, I think. So let's take the standard or the traditional idea of Muhammad, right? So there's a guy named Muhammad. His father's name is Abdullah. His grandfather's name is Abdul Muttalib. His mother's name is Amina. He was married to a woman named Khadija. He had a daughter named Fatima. He was born in Makkah, left Makkah and went to Medina, or sort of founded a religious polity, a religious community. After he dies, that polity goes on to found what becomes the Arab Empire. This is the traditional basic picture, right? This is Muhammad. And so if all of that is true, I think everyone would agree Muhammad existed. If that's what we mean by Muhammad and all of that is true, then Muhammad existed, right? Pretty straightforward. What would it mean for Muhammad not to exist? Let's take a sort of another edge case. Let's take sort of a most extreme counterexample, right? Let's suppose that during the early to mid Umayyad period, let's just say it's Urwa, a guy named Urwa, and he just one day decides, I'm going to make up a historical character. I'm going to call him Muhammad. I'm going to choose a name for his father, Abdullah. We'll go for Abdullah. And I'm going to say his wife, Khadija. And he just completely, just through pure speculation and just, puts together this basic picture, disseminates it, and then it spreads and spreads and so on. And that's where all our information comes from. In that case, I think everyone would agree Muhammad did not exist. It wouldn't matter if Urwa was taking bits and pieces from real people. We would probably still want to say Muhammad did not exist, right? He's just completely decided I'm making someone up. There is a sort of fuzzy middle ground. There's actually a continuum that goes between those two positions, right? So let's go back to Muhammad obviously existing and let's modify something. Let's just say that actually, there's been some mistake in the course of transmission. And in fact, his father wasn't Abdullah. There's been a mistake. His father was someone else, right? Is it still Muhammad? Did Muhammad still exist? I think that we would still say, yeah, but it's still the same guy. We're just mistaken about one aspect. Okay, let's change something else. Let's suppose that there's another mistake. Actually, he wasn't born in Makkah. Let's say he was born in Yemen. And his mum was on a journey, went to Yemen. He was actually born there. Is it still Muhammad? Did he still exist? I think most people want to say yes, right? Or we could change something else. We could say maybe he actually died, 2 years before when he's usually said to have died. Is it still Muhammad? I think most people would say yes. You see what I'm saying? Like you start to change things, and how many things do you have to change before we can say Muhammad didn't exist? There isn't actually like a clear line where you go from existing to non-existing. There's sort of a fuzzy continuum, right? For me, I think if someone had a different name, lived at a different time, in a different place, I think probably for me, that wouldn't be the same person. You see what I'm saying? Like that wouldn't be Muhammad. If you actually, if you lived, I don't know, 100 years earlier, on the outskirts of Iraq and his name was something else, Imrul Qais or something, for me, that wouldn't be Muhammad. right? But that's probably subjective, right? I imagine different people are going to draw the line at different places with this sort of thing. So I just want to acknowledge that there's kind of a fuzzy area there. However, this will not be a problem for us, I'm going to argue, because what I will argue is that the first scenario, where I think the traditional gist, Muhammad, son of Abdullah, his grandfather is Abdul Muttalib, he's married to Khadija, he has a daughter named Fatima, he lived in Mecca and then moved to Medina, he founded a polity, that became the Arab Empire. I'm arguing that that clear-cut scenario, where we would all agree, if that's true, Muhammad existed, that's true. You see what I'm saying? So I'm sort of dodging, even though I want to acknowledge that there's this sort of conceptual fuzziness there that gets to a point where it's hard to know how to even say if someone existed or not. That's not going to be a problem for us. So I'm going to go for the strong, sort of basic, not all the details, but that very basic traditional gist. I'm going to argue for that, right? Okay, so that's just to clarify what we mean by someone existing and non-existing. And finally, what's the novelty? Because people have responded to this issue before. People have talked about, did Muhammad exist? How do we know Muhammad existed? There are even some academics have done this. There are two, I think, novel aspects of what we're doing here in particular. First of all, systematic. We're actually going through in a much more systematic way than I think anyone has ever done, looking at all the sources of evidence, all the argumentation, right? All the mythicist arguments, all the ways in which they're flawed. Number two, here's the other thing that's sort of novel about this approach. We are going to accept, for the sake of argument initially, the worst case scenario in terms of the sources. What I'm saying is not merely, oh, they're organized and now we're organized. What I'm saying is, I'm going to begin by ceding as much ground as possible. I'm going to grant, for the sake of argument, that all the sources are as they say, that they are as late as they say, that the picture is as bad as they say. Do you see what I'm saying? It isn't like I'm going to grant as many claims to them as I can, and I'm still my conclusion is still going to come through. So with all of that out of the way, I think we can get started. So let's start with the sources. I think most people know the sources that are available, that are putatively available from Muhammad. We, of course, have the Quran, and then we have early non-Muslim literary sources. So these are the sort of writings of in like Syriac and Greek and Hebrew and these sorts of languages. And then we also have Arabic inscriptions and so on, coins and official inscriptions, for example, made by the Umayyad dynasty, for example. We also have graffiti. And then finally, we have the Islamic literary sources. So I'm going to start by acknowledging the problems that we have with biographical hadith as a historical source. Here's a list of 21 problems that we have with biographical hadith before we move on to the rise of Muhammad mythicism and how we got there. I just want to sort of acknowledge, because this is the context. We want to ask ourselves, how has Muhammad mythicism arisen in the first place? This helps to explain how this thing got off the ground in the first place. So let's take a look. First of all, we have prior probability of fabrication. This one is pretty simple. False ascription is common in other ancient religions. The underlying mechanism is present for Islam as well. So we should expect widespread false ascription in this case too, right? And the mechanism here is fairly straightforward. Religious authority remains fixed, whatever the religion is, Jesus or Moses or Muhammad or what have you. You have this fixed religious authority. But believers have conflicting and ever-changing interests. Constantly changing conditions means constantly changing needs and interests for the believer at any given time, in any given place. That creates a strong pressure or incentive to fabricate, alter, or re-remember material from the authority to justify the interests, right? And as the interests change, the constant needs are constantly changing. So there's this constantly changing pressure, all these new pressures to falsely ascribe things to the source that legitimates things. You see what I'm saying? Legitimizes things religiously, spiritually, socially. And in the early period, before there's a canon, there's nothing to stop this. There's nothing to constrain that constant pressure, right? After you have a canon, there's a block. Now you can't just make up anything. Now you have to interpret. Everything becomes about interpretation, right? So there's this constant sort of tension. But before there's a canon, there's actually nothing to stop you There's nothing to stop actually just creating material. This is sort of a common situation for various other religions, and we see exactly the same situation in early Islam as well. So that just sort of conceptually gives us a reason to think that there would have been a lot of fabrication, because we have the same pressure or needs that sort of generate that sort of thing, and without the thing that stops it from happening being present in the earliest period. Interestingly, this is not the case with the Quran, because the Quran becomes canonized very early on. So there is actually an interesting exception here, specifically in the Islamic case, because the state steps in very early on. We'll actually come to this later. The Quran is an exception to this for the most part because it gets canonized very early. But hadith, no, it takes a very long time for hadith to become sort of collected and then fixed in these texts that everyone then has access to and has copies of and is aware of what everyone else has and so on. And that sort of, this rise of systematic scholarship, systematic hadith evaluation and so on, which then acts as a sort of a preventative for the successful creation of new material. But in the early period, that's not there. So there's nothing to stop this pressure to create material that we find here as in most other early religions. Okay. That's the first problem. Second problem is that we have explicit reports of mass fabrication. So this is the second problem, is that fabrication in hadith was reportedly very common. The next problem is the lateness of the sources. So Ibn Ishaq, he's writing in the middle of the 8th century, right? He's writing around 750 or 760, sometime around that point. And we also have Ma'mar ibn Rashid, who's living around the same time period, operating the same time period. This is more than 100 years after Muhammad, right? These are the earliest biographical collections. And of course, we don't even have direct access to these, but we have our later recensions, right? We don't have Ibn Ishaq's original, we have the redactions of his students. We can reconstruct earlier material, right? We can actually reach Ibn Ishaq by doing isnad kummat analysis and reconstructing, all the different parallel transmissions. We can reconstruct earlier versions from these common links, right? But the common links are usually people operating somewhere in the 8th century CE, people like Ibn Shihab az-Zuhri, who's transmitting still probably more than 100 years after the Prophet. He's operating around 100 years after the Prophet. And even the very earliest common links, people like Urwa ibn az-Zubayr, still operating really more than 50 years after the Prophet. He's transmitting, more than 50 years after the Prophet. So we still have quite a gap of time, quite a time lapse there putatively from the Prophet and his life and circumstances to the later sources. And the point about problem of lateness is the later the source, the more time there is for distortion, right? The more time there is for things to go wrong, for things to be made up, for things to be distorted. Next, we have bias. So what is bias? An attitude that predicts distortion. For example, I'll try and choose sort of an uncontroversial example. Let's say we have, suppose we have a Stalinist, and they're writing about the history of the Soviet Union. They're writing about Stalin. What we would predict is, well, this person has a really strong ideological commitment to Stalin being a great guy. So what would we predict about his coverage of Stalin? What we would predict is that it's going to be really positive, and he's going to whitewash anything that he would regard to be negative, right? And that's totally reasonable. I think almost all people would agree, and it doesn't have to be a Stalinist on Stalin. You can swap those out and put in anyone you want, but we all understand this, right? This is actually really sort of straightforward, I think. It's like people who have a very strong feeling, positive or negative, on a subject, that predictably affects how they cover it, i.e. positively or negatively, right? Omitting, distorting, whatever. Normally, this isn't, in my opinion, such a big issue because biases are predictable. You can predict the way in which things are going to be distorted. And so you can check for that. You can correct for that, right? If I'm reading an author and I know the author's background and ideology and interests and so on, well, then I can sort of predict what are going to be their weak areas. And so I can go and check the sources. I can check whatever sources they're citing. The problem with hadith is that the biases are built into the sources. We can't get around hadith. It's not like we can go check what the hadith is citing. We don't have access to that. We only have hadith. So they're biased, but there's no way around them for almost all subjects, right? For most topics. And so they're going to be biased. For example, they're going to be very hostile, predictably, to the Meccan opponents, the Medinan opponents, the Jewish opponents of the Prophet. There's no way for us to get around this. We're just stuck with these sources. And although in general we can predict they're going to distort things, which parts are actually distorted, which aren't. It might be argued that, well, many of those former opponents became part of the Ummah. They joined the movement. So we do have access to them, right? No. Being a former opponent is just functionally the same as just being a normal member of the community.
Yeah.
There's no difference there. At that point, you're now in the new regime, you're in the new system. And so either you've now bought this and you're just going to repeat what they said, regardless of whether it was actually true, or you don't believe that, but you're not going to say that because you don't want to incur the ire and the pressure and so on in the new system that you're in. So you're just not going to mention it. So either way, the result is going to be as if you weren't a former opponent at all. The meaningful opponent perspective is not going to be preserved in that kind of environment, in that kind of context. Again, this is totally normal, by the way. The former insider who now is in the new group and will actually just say the things that the new group say rather than genuinely bringing an insider, former outsider perspective, the insider perspective of the enemy, if that makes sense. Again, this is totally normal. So, we functionally don't have access. And of course, that would assume we even really do have access to those early former enemies, and we certainly don't. We can't reach that early anyway. Everything has been streamed through later tradents who have all these biases. See what I'm saying? So we can't even get to that point in the first place. That's a wildly optimistic scenario that we're not actually in. So problem number 5 is propaganda. There are all these early different factions, religious sects, but also political factions, tribal groups, and so on, all kinds of competing early factions in early Islamic history, which creates a really strong incentive or pressure to falsely ascribe or re-remember things, i.e. for your cause, for your group against the enemies, right? And this was reportedly very common, right? This is explicitly a kind of thing that caused a lot of fabrication and interpolation and so on. And we have lots of examples of things that look exactly like this, that look like propaganda, distortions or false creations for a particular cause, whether it's, the Prophet, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, they all, went camping together, right? It's like, okay, that's pretty convenient for the Uthmanis, right? Or, rulership belongs to the Quraysh. It's hard to figure out who that favors. Well, yeah, I mean, the Quraysh, or there's also a lot of like Shi'i or sort of quasi-Shi'i material as well, where Ali and his family and so on. There's lots of material like this, right? And this is especially clear when it's combined with contradictions. Right, where there are conflicting accounts, and the difference is just so happens to line up to this or that rival sect. Like in this version, it's Ali. Like remember we talked about the scribe. Who's the scribe at Al-Hudaybiyah? Is it Ali in the Kufan version? But in whatever, the Umayyads apparently say it's Uthman. And okay, predictably there's going to be a lot of propaganda, and then we can see a lot of things that look exactly like propaganda in the material. Right, so this is problem number 5. Problem number 6. Hadith project later terms, institutions, situations, etc., back into the early period, right? So we have a lot of anachronisms in Hadith. Some classic examples include, for example, international politics in Mecca. If you look at the sources, Mecca is depicted as being like the center of world politics, right? It's the history is sort of revolving around Mecca, right? Where it's like spawning all these big wars, the Ethiopian invasion and so on. If you look at any pre-Islamic source, they've never heard of Mecca. It doesn't appear once. There's literally no mentions of Mecca in any, Greek or Latin or any source like that. The focus and attention on Mecca in the Islamic sources it just seems completely anachronistic. It just seems like a retrojection of the later importance that it has for Muslims, right? But that's then being projected into the pre-Islamic period. Or another one is just terminology. Ilke Lindstedt and others have argued that if you look at all the early sources, non-Muslim sources, Arabic inscriptions and so on, Muslims aren't calling themselves Muslims. They aren't calling their religion Islam. They mostly use internally, they call themselves mu'minun mostly. Oh, that's what appears. And then to outsiders, they call themselves muhajirun. Obviously, the ones who the outsiders are going to meet by necessity are the muhajirun, the immigrants or colonists who have gone out, right? So that sort of makes sense. But they never call themselves Muslims, never call their religion Islam for like about a century. And so this seems to be, if Lindstedt and these others are right, then this would seem to be another sort of anachronism. Not a major one, it's just terminology. It's like, earliest Christians didn't call themselves Christians, right? I mean, it's just a name, right? It doesn't mean that much. But if hadith are already treating this as the primary name for the Muslim, for the religion and the people, then there seems to be a kind of a fundamental anachronism hadith, if this is right. Another example is obviously the caliphate. And the caliphate was created after Muhammad died, but Muhammad talks about the caliphate. So it just seems like a straightforward anachronism. Now, of course, some people want to say, well, maybe Muhammad talked about it, and that's why they called it that, right? So it isn't necessarily an anachronism. It's like, well, okay, let's just say, Muhammad predicted, right, or was prescribing. It's like, there's going to be this institution after me, the caliphate. Okay, here it's coming. Everyone, I'm telling you this, right? And then we turn to the stories about the origins of the caliphate. And what do we find? I mean, it's the most ramshackle, spontaneous, ad hoc, chaotic process. There isn't even a hint here that they saw this coming. Like, oh, remember this thing that Muhammad was saying? We're doing it now. Like, no, it looks like it just arises spontaneously out of the conditions, right? So, sorry, this is not going to fly. I don't know why people just think they can just say things, then like, oh, that band. Sorry, what you say have consequences. There are entailments there. There are knock-on effects logically about what else we should see than then we don't see. People just throw in these band-aids without thinking about the consequences, right? Sorry, this just clashes with the general sort of picture of the emergence of the institution. It looks like it arises organically, spontaneously, and then it exists, and then someone takes it existing and puts it back to before it exists. It's exactly the same thing, by the way, with black flags. Why do the Hashemiyah, why do they have black banners and black flags? And it's like, oh, because maybe the Prophet actually said that would happen, and that's why they did it. So the hadith is not anachronistic, post-dating the revolution. Maybe it's somehow part of the trigger of the revolution. Okay, well, let's look at the conditions. There's scholarship on this about why did they wear black. The probable reason is that in Khurasan, there are specifically local pre-Islamic traditions of the color black being associated with political change, prophecy, and power, right? And that's very likely why they then wore black, because there were local traditions conducive to their specific need and interest. It looks like the Hashemiyah are adopting black because of very specific local Khurasani traditions. It's an organic local outgrowth, not something that they got from some hadith over in wherever. You see what I'm saying? Again, it doesn't make sense. It looks more like there's an organic process. The outcome is this thing. People then take the outcome and put it back with Muhammad. That's what it looks like. Same with that. Same with this, right? The caliphate, it just doesn't make sense that the Prophet was planning this and he was telling people about this. That doesn't match how it's depicted as coming into being. The easy solution here is that those hadiths are just anachronistic. They're just projecting something later back to the Prophet. Okay. Number 7, which is sort of overlaps with this, is the supernatural, right? So the overlap there would be like prophecies and things like that. So we have hadith are replete with all kinds of supernatural phenomena. There are, jinn, these sort of spirits, spirit beings that can interact with people. There is like a talking tree. There are all kinds of fulfilled prophecies. I'm not saying that these things are impossible, right? I don't have some sort of a priori argument to show that jinn can't exist. So I'm not saying that, right? And this is the strong version. The weak version is, I'm just stipulating these things can't exist, right? Like, I just a priori, I'm just saying I'm just some sort of atheistic, axiom or something. That's not the argument. The strong version is appealing to established background knowledge, right? Reports of supernatural phenomena are vastly more likely to be explained by some kind of false creation than by the actual occurrence of supernatural phenomena. That's the argument. We're not saying that these things can't exist in principle. Maybe they do, maybe they can. But in any given case, what is far more likely to explain a report of a supernatural phenomenon is some kind of false creation, right? That's the argument, right? It's appealing to prior probability based on established background knowledge, not some sort of arbitrary, which we all have access to. We all have access to this. If I said to you, this morning I shot laser beams out of my eyes, Would you accept that? I shot laser beams out of my eyes. You wouldn't. And then I say, oh, what are you, an atheist, naturalist, secularist or something? It's like, no, just because that has such a low prior probability. If someone says something like that, what is far, far, far more likely to explain it, as we all know from our general knowledge and from just the collective, general, established scientific background knowledge, is that what is far more likely to explain that is that I'm having a mental break, or I'm joking, or I'm lying, or something other than that I actually shot laser beams out of my eyes, right? So this is just established background knowledge. And people get this 99% of the time, but then on some subjects, suddenly, it has to just be some sort of philosophy, naturalistic philosophy. No, this is just prior probability. Next, we have implausible scenarios. Hadith depicts scenarios that go against our general background knowledge on social relations, political dynamics, imperial convention, etc. So let's take an example. We have a set of stories about a smug Kitabi who chastises Omar, right? Comes to Omar and says, this verse, today I have perfected or completed for you your religion, right? Surah 5, verse 3. If this had been revealed to us, to our religious community, we would have made that day a holiday. So he's chastising, he's browbeating Omar, like, we would have made that a holiday. You guys have obviously, stuffed up here. You've let that opportunity pass. And then Omar, and he says, not only was it was at a holiday, but it was two holidays in one. It was the day of Arafah and it was a Friday, right? So it's two in one, right? So Omar, demolishes this guy, right? This guy comes to Omar with this criticism and Omar annihilates this guy. Now, here's my question for you. How plausible is this scenario, right? I just want to think about the context here. Muslims are now conquering the world, right? I mean, they've just smashed the Persians and they've smashed, and Omar is the leader of this new conquest polity. And not only is he the leader of this conquest polity, but by all accounts, in general, Omar is a very, very harsh guy, right?
Rough
Not
around the
someone you would
edges.
mess with. Yeah. And so what is this scenario? Like, what is this, like Speaker's Corner or something like this? This Kitabi's going to come and they're going to debate, and then Omar, refutes him. It's like, this is laughable. This is ludicrous. The very scenario is crazy. There's no way this happened, right? Like, all these enemies witness the most amazing miracles, and they're like, unfazed. I could take it or
We
leave
see it
it.
all
Like,
the time.
what? Dime a dozen. Oh, I've seen the moon split many times. Then conversely, there are people where it's like, oh, can you tell me something about God? Oh, God is one. I'm converting. What, that was enough? Like the people just convert at the drop of a hat. It's like the opposite problem, right? And there are other things as well. So some scholars have argued, a governor of Egypt sends Muhammad gifts and some slaves. I mean, why would the governor of Egypt care about Muhammad way down in Medina, off the radar, not important, and Muhammad sends letters to the rulers of the world, and they receive them, and they read them, and are thinking about them, and are engaging with them? Not very likely, right? Like, why would the Roman emperor care what some letter from some guy in the middle? Again, Muhammad is important to Muslims, but he would not have been important to the Roman emperor or something. Next, we have internal contradictions. So this one's pretty straightforward. We just have lots of contradictions, just lots and lots. Like, there are an amazing amount of contradictions in Hadith. I was looking at one specific, pretty niche issue, which is the circumstances of Aisha's marriage to the Prophet. Right? I gathered every single Hadith on that topic, and you just would not believe how many contradictions there are on this relatively minor issue. And here we have some examples as well. The date of Muhammad's birth, Khadija's age at marriage, the number of Muhammad's children, the first male convert to Islam, the time spent in Makkah versus Medina, the chronology of the raids and the battles. There are contradictions on all these things and on many, many other things. We also have external contradictions. That means that Hadith are contradicted by early or pre-Islamic non-Muslim sources, right? So, for example, Hadith depicts this sort of, worship of all these polytheistic pagan gods they're being worshipped, they're being sacrificed to, they're being invoked, they have their own temples and shrines with their priests. And then we look at the inscriptions and so on, and we find none of that, right? For the century or two leading up to the rise of Islam. We find out like 1,000 years earlier or something, but not just before the rise of Islam. Or again, the obscurity of Makkah, already mentioned that, same basic issue. Or we have a belated Jewish alliance. The traditional sources make it seem like Muhammad's alliance with the Jews broke down almost immediately. Then we have an early Armenian source that seems to depict that as lasting until the reign of Omar, for example, and a couple of others as well. There's some evidence of a lingering Jerusalemite Qibla alongside them. I would say alongside the Qibla. It wasn't just resolved by the Prophet and then that's it. Now it's all towards Makkah. There's some evidence that there's something lingers on for a couple of decades as well. So we have various examples of early or even pre-Islamic sources that contradict Hadith. We also have implausible transmission occurring in Hadith, right? So we have reports that lack eyewitnesses or just lack sources. So an obvious example is like in Hadith, we have, for example, conversations between foreign kings and their advisors, like the king of Persia and his astrologers, right? And they're discussing the bad dream that the king had and blah, blah, blah. It's like, how do we have this conversation? Who's recording this? How does this get, who's the stenographer, right? I mean, no one, right? It's made up, obviously, right? There's no way we have that's been recorded. There are also things like the events of Muhammad's birth and stuff, even his early childhood. There's a similar kind of problem here where it's like, would any of this have been recorded? And especially, for example, internal or private discussions of Muhammad's enemies. When there's like no one else present, so who's recording this conversation, right? Between the evil Meccans or whatever. This actually applies basically, there's a similar kind of problem just with quotations and dialogue and conversations in general. Even when there would have been people who could have, in some sense, preserved this, there's no way they preserve this. All these hadiths have verbatim conversations. Like, I said this to him and he said to me. Sorry, none of that information would have been recorded. There's no way people remembered, absent stenographers, or something like that. There's no way people actually remembered conversations. The best case scenario is that they would remember the gist, maybe, but they don't remember the actual wording, but they all have actual wordings. Now, I'm giving the gist, like he said something along the lines of, they're giving quotations. They're just making it up. They're making up, even if it is in some sense based on a gist, they are actually just making up all the dialogue. All the dialogue, every dialogue you see in hadith is actually made up. Even if the hadith is authentic in some gist sense, all the dialogue is actually made up, right? And that raises the question of, well, which parts are actually part of the gist, which parts are later mistakes, elaborations? We have another implausible transmission problem. It's openly acknowledged that hadith were transmitted bil ma'na, by the meaning. That's absolutely true. What I'm pointing out is an interesting consequence of that, though, which is that, well, then all the dialogue is made up. Like, they aren't saying, in the hadith, they aren't saying he said X, but where it's like not actually quoting. They actually quote verbatim. See what I'm saying? There is a kind of performative creation going on here. They aren't actually just giving the gist. You see what I'm saying? So you're right. In general, the hadith scholars acknowledge everything is transmitted by the gist. They do acknowledge that. But what I'm sort of pointing out is a sort of a consequence of that when you look at, but they are seemingly giving verbatim quotations. So how do we square that? The answer is they're just making up the dialogue. So that's, rather than just describing, they're creating the wordings. Okay, so that's implausible transmission. Next, we have number 12, the lateness of the isnads. So this is a report from Ibrahim an-Nakha'i, right, where he says that people only began to ask for isnads, or isnads were only used in the days of al-Mukhtar. That's the second fitna. And then we also have other reports. This report from Hamad ibn Salama about how Qatada initially wasn't citing isnads, or virtually never cited isnads, and then someone from Kufa came and started citing isnads, and so then Qatada began to cite isnads, right? This is like halfway through Qatada's career or something, right? So he initially just wasn't citing isnads. So Qatada is only starts citing isnads pretty late, right? Belatedly, and he wasn't initially, which of course raises the question of, well, if he's now starting to cite isnads at some later point, where are those isnads coming from that he's citing? Because this would suggest is that he actually just wouldn't remember, because before this point, you didn't have to give sources. See what I'm saying? So you wouldn't necessarily make an effort of recording this sort of stuff. So this is part of the problem here, right? And then we have another quote here from Malik ibn Anas, who talks about how Zuhri was the first to asnada, he was the first to, Yoimbol interprets this as regularly cite isnads. And all this is sort of broadly corroborated by the lateness of common links. Most common links are from the 8th century. And that makes sense if isnads sort of arise a bit late. And so the common links reflect the time period where isnads are now being cited systematically. And that's why we can see them now. We can see the common links because that's the point at which isnads are becoming common. And so what this means, what are the consequences of this? Why does this matter? First of all, it sort of means that in general, companion inscriptions are suspect, right? Because these are transmissions going back to generally to people who are before isnads. So transmission from them wouldn't have been formally documented and reported, and yet the isnad is reaching all the way back to them, right? So there's that's sort of suspect. Not all of them, like Anas ibn Malik lives quite late, so it's not as much of a problem for him conceptually, but for the earlier ones, it's much more of a problem. Well, this also means in general is that early transmission was informal, undocumented, anonymous, and this is actually still evident in most biographical hadith, interestingly. They often just don't have earliest sources. They're just missing linking sources from the earliest alleged reporter to the event. That's actually really common for biographical hadith in particular. They don't even pretend to go all the way back, right? And what this all means is that it would have been easier for false material to spread in the early period because there was no system of like who said what. That wasn't there. Next, we have the Medinan bottleneck. So there's a bit of a geographical bottleneck going on in our sources. We have a small sequence of major Medinan masters and students who dominate the seerah on Muhammad, right? And these figures spread material all across the empire. And what this means is that maybe probably these figures, they might even account for most of the stories about Muhammad. Most of the stories about Muhammad's life derive from the same place and the same time, 8th century Medina, which weakens any notion of independent transmission, right? This is perfect conditions for contamination, the spread of false material, etc. If it's all being the same people in the same place at the same time, more or less, then it's like things can easily just go back and forth between them, or whatever arises within them can then just be boosted everywhere around the empire. And so this is Urwa ibn Zubair, Ibn Shihab Zuhri, Musa ibn Uqba, Muhammad ibn Amr, Hisham ibn Urwa, Muhammad ibn Ishaq, and Muhammad ibn Umar al-Waqidi. Now, not every one of them is the direct student or master of the next figure, but they're all sort of connected, right? Al-Waqidi is going back to material, for example, from a Zuhri, right? See what I'm saying? Or going back to material from Urwa. So they're all directly or indirectly part of the same Medinan continuum, this Medinan network of masters and students, right? And they account for a huge percentage of the sort of biographical material. All this stuff is traveling among the same people in the same place. It sort of undermines any sort of concept of independence. They could easily just be getting stuff from each other, or things are contaminating each other and so on. And if someone makes something up, it then spreads to the others and then goes everywhere, right? Number 4, the mode of transmission. So the material was transmitted orally, paraphrastically, atomistically, in rapidly changing and chaotic conditions. And so these are perfect conditions for things to become decontextualized, re-remembered, for the meaning to drift away from the original. This predictably leads to rapid distortion, mutation, transformation of information in the course of transmission. There's also growth in the material. Material is often growing. Later sources have way more information on the same specific events than earlier. And often, details and elements appear in post-common link versions of a hadith that are absent from the original common link version. So you'll have these different transmissions, and then in one line in particular, you'll end up with all these things that aren't in any of the other lines of transmission, right? Well, it just looks like things are just accumulating in the course of transmission. We also have early rapid distortion. So I mentioned before how the conditions sort of predict distortion. Well, we can actually sort of see the distortion. Firstly, when we're comparing transmissions from a common link, the earlier the cited source, the higher the amount of variation between the co-transmissions from them. So when two people are citing a source from around 800, largely identical or very, very, very similar. And then when there are two transmissions from a source in 750, a lot of variation, right? And then even earlier one, even more variation. Like the earlier we go, the more variation there is, right? The higher and higher the variation is getting, right? presumably because of those conditions I mentioned previously. The earlier that you go, the more sort of disruption there is, sort of, all the wars and the sectarianism and the migrations and the sudden shift in religious views and all this other stuff's going on, right? So all this mass influx of foreign populations, slaves and so on, all these like massive disruptions of the society, if you see what I'm saying. Those are sort of most intense, is sort of in the early to mid first Islamic century. So the earlier we go, sort of this, and also the less writing there is, the less writing there is, the less writing there is. So, the conditions are getting more and more mutagenic the earlier we go. And this is exactly what we see in practice with, isnad meta-analysis and these sort of code transmissions. The earlier we go, the higher the variation. And so this results in like pretty extreme situations where many hadiths fit into a spectrum of reports like a game of telephone. Right, where you can line up all the hadiths and even like common link redactions, reconstructed common link redactions side by side, and compare them. And each one overlaps with the next, but then by the time you get a few hadiths across, it's a different story. Or like most of the details have changed. Even the gist has changed. And this has been noted by Nout, Elbrecht, Nout, Patricia Kroner, Ihsan, Ruhi, and this is something I've observed repeatedly as well. For example, there's that famous hadith about where is your Lord? And in the sky or in heaven, or in one version, just points. Turns out, if you actually start collecting all the different versions of this hadith, and then all the co-versions, and all the co-versions, and so on, and you don't gerrymander and just look for like, if you're looking in the search results and you put in like 10 wordings, you're only going to get really specific search result. But if you know how to look and you start looking at, okay, only put this part in, now only put this part in, you start to find, oh, these overlap and these overlap, and you find the more outliers, and you find something that is actually a continuum of material. And so with this, if you go through, everything changes depending on what version you're looking at. Like, who owns the slave? What questions are asked to the slave? What was the event that prompted this in the first place? Everything changes. Everything changes depending on what version you look at. And this is pretty common. And that famously, Patricia Kroner looked at the Constitution of Medina and argued that, we can compare how it was preserved, obviously in writing, right? The version preserved by Ibn Ishaq is obviously just a transcription of a written document. But then we also have the same material surviving. So a lot of the distinctive wordings and so on in hadith, but now it's distorted. The actual gist has changed, right? And heaps of material has just vanished. And so you can sort of compare how it was preserved in writing versus the oral process, and it's been pretty obliterated in the oral process. Interestingly, Yanagahashi reproduced this research, seemingly unaware of Kroner's. He actually reproduced the same research and came to the same sorts of conclusions. Right, so we have artificial narrative structures. This is like we have the same quotes, the same scenarios, the same sequences, etc. They keep appearing over and over and over in hadith, right? Where it's like, a pre-Islamic representative recognizes that the Muhammad is the true prophet. And in this version, it's a priest, and in this version, it's a rabbi, and in this version, it's a kahin, and this, but they're all pointing to like the special birthmark or the cloud, or, the same things appear in different combinations, right? Like, how is this like? What was going on here? Historically, like all these different people are jumping up and saying the same things in the same ways for the same purpose, but it's different people every time. Clearly, it's a trope, or it's a motif, or a topoi. These are artificial narrative structures. These are artificial sort of narrative building blocks that people are using and reusing. Right? That's far more likely than that somehow this extremely improbably the same thing happening over and over, just with all these different people in all these different ways. Right? We have this story about a land dispute, right, involving Abd al-Muttalib. They seek arbitration. They're going to travel to a kahin. They start traveling. Then there's a water miracle, and then the other party recognizes, all right, it's your water. Where did this occur? Was this with the Quraysh in Makkah, or was this in Ta'if with the Thaqif? It's the same story. They've just reskinned it, right? It means what exactly the same thing happened in the same way with the same kind of sequence. Doesn't seem very likely, right? Or, there's a bunch of things like this. We already mentioned the Smug Kitabi, and there's actually a bunch of different versions where it's exactly the same scenario. But is it Omar, or is it Ibn Abbas? And is it a Christian, or is it a Jew? Is it Ka'ab? Who is it? And it changes. These are very improbable as historical events, but they are extremely likely as themes, tropes, motifs, and so on. What's not plausible is that a Jew from Khaybar would come to Muhammad and say, describe for us your Lord, and that a Bedouin would come to Muhammad and say, describe to us your Lord, and that some mushrik would come and say, from Makkah would say, describe to us your Lord, and this other Jew from Medina would come, and this other guy would come, and this guy would come, and they all say exactly the same thing every single time. Like, in most cases, it's just incredibly implausible, right? There are only very special conditions where we would expect people to say the same things and do the same things over and over. Those are special cases. Most of the time, what's going to explain this is that these are themes, tropes, motifs. People are using these ideal sort of building blocks or elements, right? And these inherently distort history. They replace actual quotes, actual sequences with ideal or standard ones. He's not saying whatever he really said if he said anything. He's saying the ideal quote. And so this, or the sequence isn't the real sequence of how the events happened. It's this ideal one that's being used over and over. It's this archetype or template. Well, that's replacing the real one. Next, we have the storyteller construction. This sort of ties in a couple of the previous ones, but it leads to a further point. So we have extreme variation. We have artificial narrative structures. We have constant growth of detail. We have an oral context. But all of that together points to is storytellers. It looks like the reports are being created by storytellers. They have the characteristic hallmarks, the signs of oral professional storyteller construction, right? The storytellers are common in oral contexts. Their priority is emotion, edification, entertainment, moral instruction, right? Those are the standard goals of storytellers. And they construct stories using and reusing a common set of elements. And they tailor stories according to audience interests, right? And so these signs of storyteller construction are very common in narrative hadiths, including especially biographical hadith, where we have this variation of reports with the recurrence of the same elements in different combinations and so on. This is what it looks like when material is being created and recreated by storytellers, right? And the problem is that they distort and they replace history. When they make up a story, they're either making something up completely or they're changing real history by remixing it, right? And then adding in what they want or what they want the audience to take away from it and so on and so forth. And they're just distorting and replacing history. So again, this is a big problem. Okay, next we have exegesis in disguise. So this one's pretty straightforward. We have all these reports that are regarding the context and even the meaning of the Quran at times that are extremely contradictory. Each report is contradictory, yet each report explains or matches the Quran, right? By itself, it's plausible. It sort of explains and seems to make sense of the verse, but then you look at another one, it's like, oh, this one as well, oh, this one as well, but they're all different, right? I mean, what's going on? The simple explanation is people are speculating, inferring, creating in relation to the Quran, explanations for the Quran. See what I'm saying? They're looking at these verses and then coming up with fashioning explanations. That explains the evidence. But often these are in narrative form. So it's exegesis, but it's disguised as history, right? So you have seemingly a narrative report that seemingly, is talking about, here's, this person said this and this person said this. But it turns out this is just exegesis. This scenario explains equally along with a bunch of other scenarios, all the same verse. See what I'm saying? So it looks like people aren't just coming up with exegesis, they're coming up with exegesis and then they're putting it in narrative form. And there are this is a very famous thing, there are lots of examples of this. I think my most recent blog article is going over this very systematically, like this sort of problem in, I think it's called Contradictions in Exegetical Hadith, explaining contradictions in exegetical hadith. So, I go through fairly painstaking detail. I go through some examples there. And there are other famous examples as well. Patricia Crone looked at Surah Quraysh, Surah 106. She talks about this in chapter 9 of Meccan Trade, for example, very famously. And there are other examples. I've looked at, all the examples from Surah Al-Ikhlas, Surah 112, and we also touched upon the Surah 5 verse 3 earlier.
Yep.
Next, we have amnesia and discontinuity. So there's widespread amnesia in hadith regarding the Quranic milieu. Right? There's ignorance of context of revelation, just touched upon, and even ignorance of the meanings of specific words at times, again, just touched upon. There's also ignorance of specific texts and traditions connected to the Quran. The Quran is engaging with all of these specific, Syriac influence, Christian, Jewish, all these like specific kinds of texts and traditions that scholars now are identifying. You have almost no indication of that at all in the exegetical tradition. It just seems like that context from where the later Muslim exegetes are sitting, that context has just vanished off the face of the earth, right? They just there's almost no, yeah, not always. Every now and again, there is an indication that someone is aware. So that's so in general, the specific texts and traditions that the Quran is engaging with are not, they just seem to be lost from later Muslim understanding or consciousness. And then we already touched upon this. There's this sort of ignorance of the early Hijazi religious milieu as well. The picture that actually comes across in the inscriptions and so on, the physical evidence, is very different from what we have in Hadith. So what this means is there seems to be this recurring discontinuity between the later Islamic historical memory, to some degree, and the Quran. There's some kind of discontinuity. What that in turn means is that people are creating and altering stuff without access to genuine memories. That's what it seems to be. There's the disconnect. So they're whatever they're coming up with is actually just disconnected from the original environment. It seems like there's some way in which they don't have access to genuine memories, regarding the Quran and its context. So there's an interesting problem here. Finally, problem number 21, the last one. There are no effective countermeasures. So most of the problems I outlined, up until this point, these will apply equally to hadiths that are labeled sahih, right? Sound hadiths. These aren't just only applying to like hadiths that are regarded as weak or something. These apply regardless of the traditional categories. What this actually means is that the sahih system fails any independent test. Like if you wanted to sit down and see, does this system work? What you would see is you try and find some independent criteria or metrics, like, these independent sort of content-based criteria, for example, to see, does this stack up? But they fail that. Most of them, not all of them. I actually think that contradictions are much less of a problem, and the reason for that is that part of the reason for hadith criticism was precisely to eliminate contradictions. So I actually think contradictions aren't such a big problem for Sahih hadith, but most of the others, on almost every other metric, it just looks like, okay, well then the Sahih system didn't work because so many of these hadith that are allegedly are sound, that are Sahih, just seem to be false on like by every other metric. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Another problem is that there virtually are never arguments. They never give arguments for why the hadith is sound, right? There's no reasoning given. There's no evidence given most of the time. And even in the context where they do give evidence, like in the I'lal works, they give some evidence. They give some parallel transmissions. They don't give the reasoning. 99% of the time, no argument is given, right? At best, we can look at these sort of introductory works, and they outline these very vague principles about corroboration without really telling us what that actually means in practice. Like when does an isnad count as corroboration and when is it an error? You can find, I see, formally identical isnads, right, where it looks like the same kind of thing. Oh, here's a parallel single strand, and this one though is a mutabi'. This is like a sort of a corroborating witness or whatever, and this one is a khata. This is an error. It's like, so when is it an error and when is it corroboration? It just, it's very opaque, right? The whole system is opaque. We only have these very generic sort of principles that we can try and use to figure out what they're doing, but in practice, there's never any detail, almost never, right? There's just no arguments, right? So already it would just be ludicrous to just accept on authority all this system without any argumentation, right? The whole thing would just reduce us to authority at that point. It's just, qala Imam Ahmad, qala, Imam Yahya. I think it does mostly actually in practice. The whole thing does just reduce to an appeal to authority, right? There's no way for us, we don't necessarily really even know exactly how they were reasoning in any given instance, and we can't reproduce it, right? So it's just, the whole thing is just an appeal to authority. So this is a problem, is that we don't even really necessarily know the arguments, right? Because they usually don't give arguments. There's also a high rate of contradiction. There's lots of contradictions when it comes to, hadiths and to judgments of transmitters, the reliability of transmitters, which is used to authenticate hadith. Christopher Melchett famously noted this in his article on An-Nasa'i. Also, the Isnad meta-analysis shows that so-called thiqat, reliable, these thiqa tradents, these thiqat, they often alter hadiths. Ibn Shihab az-Zuhri alters isnads. over and over. This has been noted repeatedly by Schuler, Gregor Schuler, Andreas Gurka. He alters isnads, and also he's changing content as well. Changing elements, adding things in, elaborations, and so on. And this is totally normal, actually, in the early period, even among so-called reliable traders, these thiqat. When you actually do isnad meta-analysis, this is pretty common, and I document this all the time in my PhD thesis, the constant changes that are occurring, adding elements in, so on and so forth, tweaking isnads, and so on and so forth. There's also ideological gerrymandering going on, at least when it comes to, I don't know as much about other systems of hadith criticism, but certainly the Proto-Sunni hadith criticism. They reject hadiths that have overtly unorthodox content, just a priori, right? And that in fact is a criterion for unreliability. If a transmitter is transmitting hadiths with overtly unorthodox or heretical content, that's a reason to reject or suspect the hadith transmitter. So this is just sort of gerrymandering the evidence, right? This is just another problem with this sort of what are meant to be the countermeasures against fabrication, is that there's this, they're arbitrarily disqualifying material, just a priori, just removing them from consideration. Well, maybe the Prophet did have this perspective or that perspective, right? There's no reason to just a priori just exclude all this stuff. Even the traditional scholars recognize the general weakness of biographical hadith. These famous statements from people like Ahmad ibn Hanbal, saying that, when it comes to these kinds of hadiths, we're lax. All of that is my perspective. Everything I outline, that's my view. And I think Muhammad existed. We haven't even started the game yet. Okay, here we go. Right? I think there are ways to reconstruct the historical Muhammad, even basically just using hadith. So I think there are ways around these problems in general. There are ways to recover, but we're just focusing here not on reconstructing Muhammad's life in any kind of detail. We're just concerned with establishing that he exists. So I won't actually be going into most of that, right? And we're just going to stick to just establishing that Muhammad existed. And so this is going to lead us in now to the rise of Muhammad mythicism. So let's see what happened. So firstly, what this resulted in was a general skepticism towards hadith, right? So for example, Francis Peters in 1991 wrote, "There now prevails an almost universal Western skepticism on the reliability of all reports advertising themselves, often with quite elaborate testimonial protestations, as going back to Muhammad's time or even to that of his immediate successor." And in 2015, Andreas Gurka wrote, "So far, it has not been possible to securely trace back any narrative about the life of Muhammad to a companion of the Prophet," unquote. And then in 2020, Sean Anthony wrote, "Scholars must always approach this Sirah Maghazi material with skeptical caution rather than optimistic trust," right? And these are just some examples. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that there's a continuity. This isn't just something that happened in the 80s or something. It's like, oh, we had a skeptical moment and now we're back to, hadith are reliable. No, this is an enduring general skepticism that you find across the field. Not everyone completely agrees. There is a spectrum of skepticism. Sean Anthony is not as skeptical as John Wansbrough, of course, right? There is a spectrum. But what everyone generally agrees with is that you can't just accept any given hadith report, regardless of whether it's sahih. You cannot accept it at face value. You have to establish in each instance that it's actually reliable or contains reliable information, right? And so the presumption is skepticism. Presumption is doubt until the contrary can be demonstrated. That's, I think, the general sort of prevailing view. And that was the case in the 90s, and it continues until now, right? So this is not just some one-off. Maybe it comes as a surprise to, outsiders to the field or whatever, but this is actually not controversial. Most of what I'm saying are things expressed by major scholars, not just in the 50s or something, but people like Harold Motsby, for example, right? And others like him, Gurka, for example, Sean Anthony, for example, and others. As a consequence of all of these problems in hadith, including especially biographical hadith, but also there are other kinds of problems with other hadith, we have a sort of general skepticism that obtained in secular critical scholarship on early Islamic history, right? And so from that, it's easy to see how Muhammad mythicism could have arisen, right? So already in 1914, Christian Snuk Hronje wrote, "In our skeptical times, there is very little that is above criticism, and one day or other we may expect to hear that Muhammad never existed. And of course, this was prescient. And so nearly a century later, yeah, exactly. John Burton writes in 1990, however far back in the Muslim tradition one now attempts to reach, one simply cannot recover a scrap of information of real use in constructing the human history of Muhammad beyond the bare fact that he once existed, although even that has now been questioned, unquote, right? Who is he talking about? Who is Burton talking about here, right? Who in 1990 or soon before 1990 has questioned the existence of Muhammad? I actually do not know the answer to that. I don't know who he means, because everyone we're about to look at is post 1990. At least that's when their stuff appeared in print and was published and so on. Maybe Burton is talking about those Soviet scholars, but I doubt it, because the impression here is of something recent, not something like 100 years earlier, which is a lot of that stuff is like in the 20s and stuff. We want a name, like who was it? I can tell you who it wasn't. And I don't know, people often will say, who was it? Who's the obvious answer? It was Patricia Kroner and Michael Cook. And that is completely wrong, right? So here's Patricia Kroner and Michael Cook, 1977. The account, this is from Hajarism, the account we have given of the origins of Islam is not one which any believing Muslim can accept, not because it in any way belittles the historical role of Muhammad, but because it presents him in a role quite different from that which he has taken on in the Islamic tradition. And then 3 years later, Patricia Kroner reiterated, there is, of course, no doubt that Muhammad lived in the 620s and the 630s AD, that he fought in wars, and that he had followers, some of whose names are likely to have been preserved. And then 3 years after that, Michael Cook reiterated, and so the 1980, that was in Slaves on Horses, and now in 1983, this is Cook's book, Muhammad, his biography of Muhammad, quote, it precludes any doubts as to whether Muhammad was a real person, unquote, right? So this is completely unambiguous. If you actually read Patricia Kroner and Michael Cook, not later on, but in Hajarism, in Slaves on Horses, they're absolutely clear Muhammad existed, right? And so now, so why do people so often say, oh, Kroner and Cook said Muhammad didn't exist? I've heard that several times. This is not an isolated view, right? So why do people say this? Now it might be like maybe Kroner and Cook, they only mentioned this like it's buried in an obscure footnote, right? Like it's somewhere in the footnotes in Hajarism, or it's buried in chapter 20, way at the back. So no, this is from the introduction. They say this in the introduction to Hajarism, and then it's repeated in chapter 1, where they mention these sources that they accept that are describing Muhammad, right? You literally couldn't get through chapter 1 of Hajarism and not see that Patricia Kroner and Michael Cook thought Muhammad existed, right? And also the second thing from Slaves on Horses, right, from 1980, that's chapter 1. This is chapter 1. You literally couldn't read chapter 1 and miss this, right? And then Cook reiterates this later on in his biography of Muhammad, right? So it's very, very clear here. So whoever it is, it's not Kroner and Cook. So who is it? My best guess is that John Wansbrough was intended. That's my best guess. And I've asked some people, I asked some colleagues, and this is generally what comes up, John Wansbrough. That being said, I should clarify, it isn't clear to me at all that John Wansbrough was actually a mythicist, right? I contacted some of my very senior colleagues, including like a former student of his and one of the sort of like leading exegetes of his, Gerald Horting, for example, and he just didn't remember that Wansbrough had ever commented on that issue, right? So, if you try and read his books, I just can't tell if he thinks Muhammad existed or not. He's obviously extremely skeptical of everything. I just can't tell. So, maybe he did have this view, but I haven't been able to find anywhere a clear articulation that he doubted that Muhammad existed. So I just don't know if it's John Wansbrough. And certainly the actual, definite mythicists, they're all citing Wansbrough, right? So they certainly see themselves as following in the tradition of Wansbrough, but I don't know whether they are doing so accurately. But after Wansbro, we definitely reach clear, we unequivocally we have mythicists, right? So who are the mythicists? This is in the Western tradition of mythicism. I'll explain in a second the distinction there. So we have Yehuda Nevo and Judith Koren, who are two Israeli scholars, and then and they're explicitly, quoting people like Wansbro, so they're sort of picking up as they see it where Wansbro left off. Then we have Karl Heinz Ohlig and Volker Popp. These are two German scholars, and they're part of what's called the Inara school. It's a sort of a revisionist school of early Islamic history, and they're explicitly citing Nevo and Koren. And then we have Hans Janssen, who's a Dutch scholar, and then we have Robert Spencer, who's an American writer who's explicitly citing all of the above. So they aren't just disconnected. You can sort of see a kind of continuity here in this. There's kind of exactly. It's sort of like a self-conscious tradition, as it were. The reason why I'm calling them the Western mythicist tradition is that there's also a Soviet tradition of Muhammad mythicism. But this is, from what I can tell, I mean, some of these arguments are like, they just seem so bad. It's like not even worth engaging with. It's like, oh, the founders of religions are presumed to be to be mythical, and why, right? Like, it's just this, it's like, let me put it like this: if the arguments that we're going to make against the Western mythicist tradition are successful, they're going to apply a fortiori to the Soviet tradition. Here are some articulations by the Western mythicists regarding, the idea that Muhammad didn't exist. So here's Nevo and Koren, for example, in their book Crossroads, right, from 2003. Muhammad is not a historical figure, and his official biography is a product of the age in which it was written, the 2nd century AH. Muhammad entered the official religion only circa 71/690 CE, and the very few passing references to him in earlier literary sources should be regarded as later interpolations by copiers who knew the traditional account. So that's Nevo and Koren. And we have Ohlig. Muhammad is not a historical figure. And that's from 2010. And then from 2013, for a long time, Muhammad was not a name, but a motto, first historicized and considered to be a name during the 8th century and supported by a biography in the 9th century. Next, we have Janssen, who said, is Muhammad a historical figure? It may sound crazy, but it is not as crazy as it sounds. A number of scholars consequently suspect that Muhammad is not a historical figure, but a literary character that was created by ancient Arab storytellers, perhaps early in the 8th century of our era. Nobody will as yet dare to uphold that we are forced to reject the historicity of the Prophet of Islam, but doubt is perfectly justified. And then again, he reiterated, it is reasonable to have doubts about Muhammad's historicity because there are no convincing archaeological traces that confirm the traditional story of Muhammad and early Islam. And so that's Janssen. And finally, we have Robert Spencer. Muhammad was fashioned as a hero and prophet beginning toward the end of the 7th century and with increasing industry during the 8th and 9th centuries. Now, anyone who reads Spencer's book, Did Muhammad Exist?, will encounter a curious phenomenon, which is that at times, Spencer is saying this. At other times, Spencer is saying something different, which is the Muhammad of faith did not exist. The Muhammad as presented in the Islamic sources is embellished, elaborated, distorted, a statement that no secular scholar would disagree with, right? Of course, that's just like pretty much banal, sort of a banal position at this point. So there are two different positions that he articulates, and it becomes confusing at points, right? Because he seems to be vacillating between two distinct positions, that the Muhammad of faith didn't exist and that Muhammad did not exist, right? Two different propositions. So which is it? It seems clear that he really thinks that Muhammad did not exist. Muhammad did not exist at all, right? He isn't just saying the Muhammad of faith didn't exist. He's saying Muhammad didn't exist. I mean, that statement there seems pretty unequivocal, for example. And this is what he reiterates, for example, in a 2020 interview on YouTube. He said, in the case of Muhammad, there is no evidence that any such person existed. He is a creation of various factions that created the Arab Empire for their own goals. This is not the Muhammad of faith didn't exist. This is Muhammad did not exist, right? So he just sort of there are these two positions, but actually the real position, the one that he really believes, is the stronger position. Let's have a look at their arguments. Argument number one is the argument from silence, right? So the idea here is, first of all the sources are late, suspect, etc. Hadith are extremely unreliable. The relevant non-Muslim writings are all interpolated. The coins and inscriptions are all fairly late, right, from basically around the end of the 7th century CE. And the Quran is fairly late as well, again, from around the end of the 7th century CE. And so this generates an argument from silence. The idea is, if Muhammad existed, he should be mentioned early on. He isn't mentioned early on, ergo, he did not exist. Argument number two is a more direct argument, which is that Muhammad is actually Jesus. So the idea here is that Muhammad, in the earliest sources, in the Quran, in the coins, in the inscriptions, is actually a title or a description, meaning praiseworthy one or even chosen one for Jesus. Why do they say this? First of all, Muhammad is not used as a name before the time of Abdul Malik. So that's the first argument. So it's not a name. Secondly, if you look at sort of related, like Ugaritic, right, like a Semitic cognates, related Semitic languages, we find that this word and the root means chosen one, right? So Muhammad means chosen one. And this is a very sort of suspiciously symbolic name, right? Like, what are the odds that the prophet or is actually called chosen one? So it seems sort of suspicious and artificial, you see. Next, we have Muhammad. The word Muhammad appears on coins with a cross, which is taken to be more evidence that it's actually referring to Jesus. We also have in the Quran a kind of parallel way in which Jesus and Muhammad are described, right? So there's this same formulation, X is naught but a messenger. And in one place it's Jesus, or al-Masih is not, the son of Mary is naught but a messenger. And the other place it's Muhammad, right? So it seems to be, but the Muhammad takes the place of Jesus. It refers to the same thing, right? The wording is otherwise the same. This is the one variable, so you can see these are actually in some way synonymous or whatever. Like Muhammad is actually referring to Jesus there. And then finally, Jesus was called Muhammad by the Arabs of the East, according to Pop. So this is argument number two, is that Jesus is actually Muhammad. Muhammad is actually Jesus. Well, yeah, so Jesus is a praiseworthy one or the chosen. Jesus is Muhammad in that sense. And finally, the third argument is that Muhammad has a mythic biography. The biography is fundamentally mythical, right? It's built out of these sort of symbolic narrative or literary sort of structures, right? So, for example, who are the sort of two most famous wives of the Prophet? Well, arguably it's Khadija and Aisha. And they're opposites, right? Khadija means death, apparently, and Aisha means life, right? Very suspicious, right? They mirror each other conceptually, right? So it's like, they're opposites. It seems symbolically constructed. See, but also the life of Muhammad just generally is very sort of symmetrical and has sort of symbolic chronology, right? Like 10 years in Makkah, 10 years in Medina, right? It's very symmetrical, a little bit suspicious. And all these there are various other aspects as well. The age 40 is this big, auspicious age, for sort of symbolic age of maturity and wisdom and so on in the ancient world in general, and recurs. So it all seems kind of artificially constructed and suspicious and thus fundamentally mythic, right? The idea here is that if you just look at Muhammad's life, it doesn't look like a real life. It looks like this sort of mythic construction. This is Janssen's argument in particular. Let's see if there are any problems here with these arguments, right? Let's explore. Let's find out. For the sake of argument, we're going to accept all the claims about the sources, right? That they are as bad as they said. Now, I actually agree, those 21 problems I outlined, I agree with that, right? That's my list, right, of problems, right? A lot of those problems, maybe even most of those problems, these guys actually never touch upon, right? So they're not even aware probably of half the problems that there are with the sources, right? So I agree that the sources are generally very unreliable, right? That's my position, right? But we're going to go a little bit further, because what they're trying to say is not only are unreliable, but they're sort of kind of unusable, right? So we're going to pretend that we don't have Isnad meta-analysis, right? Because what they're sort of assuming is there's no Isnad meta-analysis, that doesn't work. We can't reach back to earlier and earlier layers. We're going to accept that for the sake of argument, right? So I'm going to grant that for the sake of argument. They're kind of unusably late in a sense, right? In a sense. So that's, so they're generally late and unreliable. I accept that. I'm going to grant that, right? We're going to accept that the inscriptions that we have are only from the 680s and the 690s CE onwards, right? That we don't have any securely attested earlier inscriptions referring to Muhammad, which I think at this point is probably still the case, although I expect this to be overturned as we find more inscriptions. But for now, that actually I think is not, in terms of like what has been securely dated, I think that's probably right? For now, we're stuck with things from the second Fitna onwards, and especially Umayyad inscriptions. Okay, we're going to accept that. We're also going to accept, for the sake of argument, that the Quran is actually like a product of Abdul Malik or the sort of mid-Umayyad period. We're going to accept that as well, for the sake of argument, right? From around 700, we're going to accept that. And finally, we're going to accept that all the non-Muslim literary sources are suspect or they're interpolated. We're just going to accept that for the sake of argument, right? So we're going to cede all of that ground. Now, if we grant all that, if we cede all of that, can we still argue that Muhammad existed? I'm going to argue, yes, absolutely. Here's the first problem, or the first counter. There's pan-Islamic agreement, right? We have a gigantic corpus of sources from the 9th century and the 10th century onwards, right? A huge corpus of reports, right? We have hadith collections, right? Of various kinds. We have epistles, we have heresiographies, we have geographies, we have adab works, right? We have biographical dictionaries. We have works to do with sort of pre-Islamic Arabia, for example. We have general chronicles. We have just a huge corpus of all kinds of different works, both directly historical and also works that just sort of tangentially touch on historical matters, right? And these are from from many different places. Right now, there are ones in Khorasan and Egypt and so on. But of course, I'm going to grant that, to some degree, the diversity is deceptive, because pretty much all the material actually goes back to Arabia, Iraq, and Syria, right? But even then, we have Medinan material, we have Meccan material, we have Kufan material, we have Basran material, and we have Syrian material, not just in terms of the reports and their isnads, but in terms of actual collections from all of these places, right? So we have this vast corpus from multiple regions, and of course, there are Sunni and Proto-Sunni and Shi'i and Proto-Shi'i, there's Ibadi, there's all kinds of different sort of sectarian backgrounds represented in these compositions, right? The works contain material from these different backgrounds, and also the works are composed of people from these various different backgrounds. And there's obviously Umayyad and pro-Umayyad material, there's Hashemid and pro-Hashemid material, and so on and so forth. So we have material from all across the board on every metric, whether it's from genre, geography, sectarian, or other affiliation, and they all agree that Muhammad lived in Makkah, then Medina, that his dad was Abdullah, that his mother was Amina, that his grandfather was Abdul Muttalib, right? That he founded this community. His wife was Khadija, his daughter was Fatima. They all agree that the community he founded in Medina goes on to become the Arab Empire. They all agree, all of them. Every sect tradition that becomes visible to us in the 9th and 10th centuries, in every source, all across the board, they all agree on the same basic gist, right? Now, here's the question. What explains that agreement? The simplest explanation is they've all inherited a common memory, that they have the same founder. Simple. That's the simple explanation. Why does everyone agree? Sunni, Shi'is, Umayyads, Hashemids, Arabians, Iraqis, Syrians, they all agree. Why? Simple explanation. Because they have a common memory. Of at least the gist, the very basic gist. There was a guy, Muhammad, he was our founder. He's the founder of our polity. It's a couple of basic facts about him. They all agree, right? They disagree on the details. They disagree constantly on the details. But on the basic gist, they've all inherited the same basic memory. Simple explanation, right? Now, the simplest explanation isn't always the correct explanation, right? Like there are going to be circumstances when this is not going to work, right? There are going to be times when, like, for example, I think that there seems to be a consensus, right? You find this again across the board very, very frequently. You find that when Muhammad was born, right, sort of a supernatural or magical light came out of his mother and illuminated as far away as the castles of Syria. And that's in Shi'i sources and Sunni sources, and it seems to be quite widely attested sort of idea, right? But I wouldn't say that that's explained by a genuine common memory that this actually happens, right? I would say that's clearly just a secondary false idea, that because it was appealing to everyone. Obviously it legitimates Islam, it legitimates the Prophet and so on, so that easily spread everywhere, right? So I'm not saying that we should always accept everything that's generally agreed upon, of course, but it is, all else being equal, it does seem like the simplest explanation, right? So that is a reason to think, well, I mean, what explains everyone agreeing on the same basic just about Muhammad? There's a common memory of an actual guy, right? Simple explanation. A stronger version of this, there's trans-sectarian agreement. So it isn't just that all these different sources, all these different places are agreeing. These different rival factions are agreeing, which is a sort of a sharper point, if that makes sense. I mean, there's really just a simple question. And by the way, this is the bane of a number of revisionist theories, right? And when I was more revisionist than I am now, this was the problem. This was the problem that always bothered me. How the hell do, for example, the Umayyads convince the Shia that, oh yeah, we go back to a guy called Muhammad who you've never heard of, who we just fabricated, right? Oh yeah, actually there's this guy Muhammad. He's our founder. I've never heard of him, or whoever it is, because remember, by the time we're in the time period when people are supposed to have created Muhammad, already the Ummah is shattered into rival factions. So the idea has to have come from one faction and then spread to the others, right? So let's suppose, for example, it's the Umayyads, right? Let's suppose, for example, Urwa is the guy who fabricates Muhammad. I know he's sort of a Zubayrid, but he, once his brother gets smashed and killed, he sort of joins the Umayyads. He kind of has good relations with the Umayyads. So we're gonna treat Urwa as an Umayyad here. Just go with me. Okay, so Urwa is in the Umayyad camp. Urwa fabricates Muhammad, let's say. He's the guy, he makes it up. And remember, I mentioned the bottleneck. So he's well positioned for that, his stories to then be boosted around. Okay, but how does it spread to the Shia? How do the Shia get convinced that this material coming from their enemies and the supporters of their enemies, like, oh yeah, we're just going to accept all that. Oh yeah, this basic adjustment to our fundamental origins, we're just going to accept that, And then if they somehow manage to convince the Shia, how do they convince the Ibadis and the Khawarij? It doesn't make any sense, right? It's ludicrous, right? What is actually required here to have occurred, given these background facts about early Islamic history, is just preposterous, right? There's just no good explanation as to how somehow one of these factions convinces the other to accept this fundamental adjustment to their origins narrative, right? Now, I'm not saying things can't spread between rival groups. Things do spread. I think the birthlight is a good example of that. But the point there is that that's expedient. That's good for everyone. There's nothing to stop that from spreading, right? But this is not that. And also, I think trivial details could spread, right? Like trivial bonus information that one group didn't know could spread from one group to the other, like some, information about some obscure facts about genealogy or some bonus information about a battle or an event. You could easily see that sort of thing spreading, right? But Muhammad is not a trivial detail that's being added to an existing picture. For Muhammad to spread is for a fundamentally new picture of their common origins to somehow spread from one group to the others, right? It doesn't make any sense. And it gets even stronger. It gets even sharper, because not only do we have to explain how somehow this fundamentally new picture spread from one group to the rival groups, we have to explain how it did so against the interests of some of those groups, right? Mm-hmm. Pro-Umayyad sources accept that Muhammad was a Hashemid. If the Umayyads had made up Muhammad, why would they say he was a Hashemid? Why wouldn't they say he was an Umayyad? And if the Hashemids or someone else had made it up, why would the Umayyads accept that? Oh yeah, this guy who's this really important prophet founder for us, who we're accepting, wasn't one of us. That we were just going to accept that. That's fine. He was member of our rivals. It doesn't make any sense, right? Or pro-Qurashi sources, they're largely pro-Qurashi. They accepted the Quraysh persecuted the early Muslims and Muhammad and rejected Muhammad, right? Why? Why would they make that up or accept that? See what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense, right? So it isn't just that the material has to spread from one group to rival groups, making a fundamental adjustment to their, origins narrative. It requires them to accept stuff that is bad from their perspective, that reflects badly on them or the people that they identify with, i.e., ancestors or whatever, right? People they support. It doesn't make any sense, right? We would strongly expect, if they had invented it, we would just strongly expect the others would not accept it if it was inexpedient, right? What seems overwhelmingly likely for explaining why it is that the Umayyads and pro-Umayyads accept that Muhammad was a Hashemid, this inconvenient fact, is because they knew it was true, because it was part of this basic memory that they had also independently inherited from the earliest days, that everyone knew and they knew and everyone knew and they all knew, so there was just no way around it, right? Next, we have the non-mythic, or we have the mythic biography. Let me first completely agree that the chronology is mythical, right? Or a lot of the chronology is mythical. I completely agree. That is a totally uncontroversial view. Yes, the chronology seems artificial and symbolic, and they've made Muhammad age 40, and he was, born in the year of the elephant, and all this other stuff. Yeah, this is all extremely suspect, and the symmetry and so on and so forth. This is exactly the sort of thing we were talking about when we were talking about artificial narrative structures. Exactly this kind of stuff. Everyone agrees, right? Because the chronology, and there's a simple, reason for this, by the way, or part of the equation here is that the chronology is secondary. They weren't recording chronology early on. They just probably wasn't actually part of the culture, actually, to have, like, these are non-state societies without any sort of local intensive tradition of literature and record keeping and diaries and parish records. They don't have any of that stuff, or they have barely any of that sort of material. It's just not the kind of society that records things like when people were born and that sort of stuff, right? And like chronologies and so on and so forth. That sort of information just isn't recorded usually in these kinds of societies and cultures, right? And that remains the case now. Right now, in 2023, there are societies that conform to what I just outlined, right? These sort of societies that are only very new to having a state or having this sort of local sort of infrastructure and so on, where people don't know how old they are. People don't know when they were born, right? Because that information is just not needed and it's just not recorded. It just seems clear that the chronology is substantially or largely reconstructed later on and projected back, right? So it's precisely the sort of thing that you would expect to be sort of mythical and symbolic and so on in the first place, because it's precisely one of the most artificial and secondary elements of the life of Muhammad. This doesn't mean that Muhammad didn't exist or anything. This is literally, everyone agrees, this is a later secondary. Yeah, so that means nothing, right? That has no bearing on all the other material. It's precisely a later secondary artificial development. Everyone agrees. So let's look at the other actually, example that was given here. Let's take, for example, Aisha and Khadija. They're not opposites. Khadija doesn't mean death or dead. It means something like a dead fetus, right? Dead fetus is not the opposite of life or living. The opposite of life or living is dead or death. See what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, it's related, but it's not the opposite. You know what I mean? It's sort of like a subcategory of the opposite. So if you were going to artificially construct Muhammad's life and have these perfect, nice symbolic parallel, or opposite sort of meanings for the wives, you wouldn't make it Khadija. You would make it like Ma'ita or something. That would be the perfect opposite for Aisha. And it doesn't seem significant anyway, because Muhammad had a bunch of wives. So it's like, why is it what's really interesting about two out of his more than a dozen wives would happen to have opposite meaning names? It doesn't mean much when there's a bunch of wives, right? It's much less interesting. It just doesn't mean much. So it's not significant, right? So this is just, a bad argument. And there are just parts of Muhammad's life that just clearly just aren't mythical. Like for example, there's a report Muhammad went to Abu Bakr and wanted to marry Aisha. And Abu Bakr says, oh, well, she's already engaged to, Jubair ibn Mut'im. So I'll go and cancel that. And he goes and cancels it. And then he arranges the marriage with the Prophet. What's mythic about that? What's the artificial, special, symbolic? Nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? And lots of the life of the Prophet is like that. It's just it's just mundane, right? There's nothing about here that seems suspiciously mythical. Next, we have silence does not necessarily mean non-existence, right? The problem, though, is that the idea that if Muhammad existed, then he should be mentioned a whole bunch early on is actually not necessarily true. Him merely existing doesn't actually predict that he should be mentioned. It's not true, right? There are other sort of ways to think about it that wouldn't require that, right? In other words, there are multiple viable explanations for the apparent initial Muslim silence regarding Muhammad, why he isn't in early inscriptions and so on, right? One thing would just be he was just less important early on. Initially, Muhammad was less important, and he gained importance over time, and so they then began to put him on the inscriptions. That's one explanation, right? Another one would be, and this is just totally speculative, I'm just making this one up, but just coming up with possible explanations for the data. There was a pre-Islamic convention that you mentioned God. God's the one you mentioned, not people in these religious invocations. And so initially they just carried on with this tradition of you just mentioned God, right? And then only over time there's a shift and people begin to mention Muhammad, right? Now I'm speculating, but that could all be wrong. It's possible that him not existing, that's the correct explanation. It's logically possible, right? That is a possible explanation for the early silence. But the point is that we can think of other explanations as well. There's multiple explanations. And the thing is that our explanations, right? Let's say Muhammad was less important. That conforms with all the other evidence, including that sort of trans-sectarian consensus. That conforms with that. The mythicist explanation clashes with all that other evidence. That just means it's a bad explanation, right? That just means it's a bad explanation. It clashes with all this other evidence. Okay, that's a reason to reject that interpretation and to accept these other ones, right? And by the way, Muhammad being initially less important and then becoming more and more important over time, that's independently corroborated, right? There's a body of research on early Muslim conceptions of Sunnah that clearly shows this, that over time it's initially generic and so on, and other people's sunnahs are prioritized, and over time there's more and more of an emphasis on the sunnah of the Prophet, right? There's a strong body of literature on that. The mythicist explanation is uncorroborated speculation that cannot overpower the pan-Islamic agreement. And that just gives us a reason to prefer another explanation that coheres with that evidence rather than conflicting with that evidence, right? And at the very least, when we have this strong evidence in one direction, which is that Muhammad existed, which is the consensus, including of all these conflicting early groups and so on, including against their interest. And then we have this equivocal evidence, early silence, which could be explained by Muhammad not existing, but could be explained by something else. Sorry, the unequivocal evidence is going to trump the equivocal evidence. You see what I'm saying? Next, we have Muhammad is the chosen one. And then this is just terrible argumentation. So first of all, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go into other languages to try and figure out what things mean in Arabic. There are definitely times when we have to do that, right? There are definitely times when it's clear from the Arabic sources that they don't know what a word means. For example, in the Quran, some obscure word. And so we have to reach, outside to try and figure out what this means, right? But the problem here is just when we have Arabic linguistic sources, those are our first port of call. And if we have a sufficient explanation in the Arabic sources, we don't need to reach into some other language, right? Arabic sources generally are going to give us a better idea of what the word means in Arabic than in another language. It's only when it's clear the Arabic sources don't know what it means, that's when we look further abroad. But if we don't, there's no indication of that. If they just generally agree, then there's no problem. And we don't have to do that, right? If there's a consensus, we don't have to reach into some other language. And there is a consensus. There's a general agreement. Muhammad means praiseworthy one, right? The root, hamd root, and it's the second form passive participle, right? It's like, mufa'al, right? Muhammad. There's no ambiguity here. We know what it is. We know the root. We know the meaning. What's the problem, right? It just seems totally arbitrary and gratuitous to say, no. Let's just go into Ugaritic, right? And that's how it means, chosen one, right? So that's the first thing. And there's another problem. If we accept this for the sake of argument, originally actually it meant chosen one. Yeah, then why do they then, in the later sources, why does it mean praiseworthy? Why do they downgrade the name? I mean, Muhammad is a great name. Like, praiseworthy one, that's cool. It's a nice name, right? Kind of auspicious, but not as auspicious as chosen one. That's very auspicious, right? Why would they downgrade it? It doesn't make any sense, right? And then the final problem, of course, is that we have, as if we even needed this, given the consensus of the Arabic linguistic sources, we have an early inscription that shows us very clearly what this means, right? And so I went and checked. When I saw this claim, reading these sources, Nevo and Curran and the others, I read this and I was like, I bet you I can find the hamd root used in an early inscription where it clearly means praise. I bet I can find it. And I did. I checked Hoyland, right? And, Seeing Islam as Other Story, and he has a little anthology of the earliest dated Arabic inscriptions, right? So here's this inscription, right? In the name of God, Ar-Rahman, the merciful, God, magnify him greatly. Much praise be to God. Praise be to God. Morning, evening, and all night long. O God, Lord of Gabriel, Michael, and Israfil, forgive Ibn Yazid al-As'adi for his earlier sins and those that come later, and forgive whoever says Amen, Amen. Lord of the worlds, this text was written during the month of Shawwal in the year 64, i.e. 683, 684. Now, obviously we have, Alhamdulillah, kathiran. Like, let's just say for the sake of argument, we don't know what hamd means here. What does it mean? Is there anything about the context that might tell us what this means? Look, it's literally sandwiched between two praising formulas, right? Magnify greatly, praise be to God, right? Subhanallah. It's literally between two praising formulas. There's no ambiguity here. It clearly is a praising formula. It means something like praise. Therefore, Muhammad clearly means something like, the praiseworthy one. And what's the time period, right? Luckily, the writer of the inscription gave us the date. It's like 683, 684, exactly the time period when all these other Muhammad inscriptions are also. This is according to them, actually before the Quran. And it's at the exact time when the earliest Muhammad, is the messenger of God inscriptions are appearing. This is from exactly the same time period. So it shows unequivocally that Muhammad, or the root, the hamd root, has the praise meaning already at that exact time, right? So this chosen one thing is done. It's done. I never want to hear this ever again. It's out, gone. Next we have Muhammad is actually a proper name. It's not a title and it's not a description. First of all, the title thing, we can just immediately throw that in the bin. I mean, let's just rattle off some Arabic titles, shall we? Al-Ma'mun, okay? Al-Mahdi, okay? Al-Mansur, Al-Rashid, yeah, Al-Faruq, Al-Sadiq. Do you know if there's anything in common about all these Arabic titles?
Al.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a definite article. Now, look, what's missing from Muhammad? Definite article. If it was a title, it would be Al-Muhammad. There's no definite article. It's not a title, right? Done. Never. I want to never hear this again. I never ever want to hear this. Muhammad is a title. Sorry, that violates our overwhelming established background knowledge on what we would expect to see if it was a title. So, gone. Now, it is possible that it is like a description, though. So not a title, but a description, right? Like, so for example, Muhammad Rasulullah, and there's early inscriptions that we find from around like the second fitna onwards. It's possible. It's possible that it's a description here, that it's praiseworthy is the messenger of God. It's possible, right? The problem is that it's improbable, right? This is a nominal sentence, right? So it's X is Y, right? And now in nominal sentences, normally the first thing is the subject, normally, right? Not always, but normally. And the subject is normally definite. So this is overwhelmingly likely to be the subject and definite. So what makes it definite? Something has to make it definite, right? Well, there's no alif lam, and it's not in an idafa. So there's only one option left. What makes this definite? It's a proper name. Muhammad, done, right? So again, it's not impossible. It is grammatically possible, but it's unlikely. The far more likely explanation is that it's a proper name, and it's the subject of a nominal sentence. Now that is actually sufficient, but there's more. It appears in a coin, right? We have this coin from Abdurrahman ibn Muhammad, right? He's a very famous rebel. And his father's name was Muhammad. And this is from 699 to 700, around that time period. Now, that's when Abdurrahman is rebelling, right? Abdurrahman was probably at least probably around 20, let's say. And so then how old would his dad have been? Maybe 20 years before that. Or we're going back decades. Decades before Abdul Malik, there was a guy named Muhammad. Muhammad is already a proper name. So remember that claim, how, there wasn't used as a proper name? That's false. Instantly false. We have a coin that clearly shows it is being used as a name decades before the year 700. right? So that's already, again, smashes this out of the water. And then on top of that, Muhammad is left untranslated in early Greek and Persian texts, right? That just immediately suggests it's a proper name, right? Because if it was just a description or something, that would be translated, right? Everything points to it is a proper name. This thing about how Muhammad and Jesus are somehow being described in the same way is just totally equivocal. Muhammad is compared to other prophets all the time in the Quran. So there's nothing really interesting. Like that's like not at all a surprise. Now you might say, well, why is this very specific comparison? X is naught but a messenger. Why is this being made specifically just for these two? I mean, there's an obvious reason for that because Jesus is thought to be, God by many people. So there's a need to clarify, no, he's just a messenger. And then Muhammad is the currently living messenger whose status is therefore not clear, right? And what will happen? Will he die? That because he's the current one, there's a question there. It's not a given thing like, oh, this is past, we know what happened. So there's also a particular need to clarify specifically with Muhammad. Muhammad is not but a messenger. So it actually makes perfect sense when you just think about those particular background facts relevant to the text, right? No, and it's totally equivocal, right? There's no reason to think that this means somehow. And then of course we have the grammar problem, right? Just mentioned, right? Again, the subject is in the first position, so it's probably definite, and so it's probably a name. Muhammad is probably a name, right? So there's also those grammatical grounds, and that applies to the other references to Muhammad as well. Most of the other ones in the Quran, again, it's odd if Muhammad is not a proper name, just on those grammatical grounds I mentioned. The coins thing means absolutely nothing, that Muhammad appears on a coin with a cross. That would mean nothing at all. The Arabs repurposed Christian and Zoroastrian coins. You know what else? We literally have a source from the 680s, right? A Maronite, the anonymous Maronite chronicler, right? Who mentions that Muawiyah tried to get rid of the crosses on the coins. And there was a big fuss about it, and that was rejected. They wanted to get rid of the cross. They couldn't. Initially, they couldn't. It took time, right? Presumably because people are very conservative when it comes to currency, right? Because any new currency might be seen as illegitimate, so you have to cling to what works, right? Yeah. Also, it might just be that at that point, the early Islamic polity was weaker and just couldn't enforce its over on its Christian population yet. It's this sort of removal of these sort of Christian symbols. Whatever the reason, it is explicitly attested that they wanted to get rid of the crosses, but they couldn't. They initially failed in the attempt. So we're like, how spoiled are we, right? It's like there's so much evidence here against this. It's amazing, right? Okay, finally, remember, Pop says, oh, Jesus was called Muhammad by the Arabs of the East. He gives a footnote, and I went to the footnote, and all he talks about there is this Ugaritic stuff. He has no reference. I don't know what he's citing, but there's no evidence that I'm aware of, and he gives none, that Muhammad was called, independent of the evidence that he's interpreting that's precisely in question. There's no evidence that Jesus was called Muhammad by the Arabs of the East. So this is just an assertion with no evidence, right? So that's the Jesus connection. There's none, right? Muhammad is not Jesus. Muhammad is the proper name of a different guy, right? So that's, that all collapses. Now we have the non-Muslim sources, right? Again, silence does not necessarily mean non-existence, right? I'm going to agree. I can see that the silence is unexpected, in my opinion. You'd think they'd mention something about Muhammad, this sort of founder of this polity that's just conquered everyone, right? But it's not wildly so. I mean, in the first few decades, you would expect there was a lot of chaos and conflict and so on. You could easily imagine, for example, somehow early Muslims just failed to convey information about their origins and founder to the people they had conquered, right? And remember, the Muslims isolated themselves in these sort of garrison cities, it's just easy to imagine that, like, it's conceivable, and or that they did so in some cases, but those just haven't happened to survive just due to whatever historical conditions, and texts go missing, texts cease to be copied, whatever, things burned down. It's conceivable. I mean, I'm going to agree. I'm going to grant this is a little bit of a stretch. It is a bit odd, but the point is that it's more clearly it's conceivable that this happened, that somehow the information failed to be conveyed, and that's clearly far more likely that the Umayyads were somehow convinced to accept this inexpedient information about their origins by a rival sect who they hated and were persecuting and were attacking and fighting with. That is clearly way less likely than, oh, in the chaos and in the confusion of the early period, people didn't get the message as to who the founder of this polity was, right? Like it's clearly far less likely that somehow, the Ibadis were convinced, and the, and of something the Umayyads had fabricated and so on and so forth. This is our weakest point, but it's one that it's very easy for us to rationalize in a way that's not true in reverse. Their weakest point is all this other stuff that's far harder to rationalize. So our set of explanations is going to work much better because it requires a far less sort of ludicrous scenario to have occurred, which is just that somehow in the early chaos and so on, the information of the founder just didn't pass, or that when it did pass, it just didn't survive. Right? That's clearly a far lesser bullet to bite than that somehow the Shia were convinced by the Umayyads, some fundamental alteration to their origin story that they'd never heard of before, and so on and so forth, right? In other words, even in the worst case scenario, overwhelmingly the best explanation or set of explanations is Muhammad existed. By far the best explanation is that Muhammad existed, whether it's for the pan-Islamic agreement, right? The simplest explanation for which is Muhammad existed, and they remembered that, or the trans-sectarian agreement, which requires this extremely implausible transfer on the mythicist view, or let alone for the inexpedient agreement, which requires an even more implausible transfer on the mythicist view. Somehow people are accepting the fabrications that go against their interests from their rivals. And of course, the biography doesn't look fundamentally mythical anyway. There are lots of non-mythical elements in the biography, so that idea is false. The early silence in the coins and the inscriptions and so on is equivocal at best, and it cannot overwhelm the unequivocal evidence of all the inexpedient trans-sectarian agreement, etc., etc. Also, Muhammad is clearly a proper name. So this whole Muhammad is a title or Muhammad is a description of Jesus just totally collapses. And finally, it would be odd if the early non-Muslim sources don't record anything at all about Muhammad, but that's clearly far less of a problem than all the problems that would face you if you adopted the mythicist explanation, right? So this is clearly the path of least resistance, is just maybe they just failed to convey that information in the chaos and the carnage of the conquests and so on and so forth, right? That's a far easier bullet to bite. The Umayyads were convinced that they were the bad guys for some fabrication by a rival sect or whatever, right? So even in the worst case scenario, we win. We have a far stronger case than Muhammad existed in the worst case scenario, granting all of these points about the state of the sources. But of course, a lot of that is not true. A lot of this stuff we granted, in point of fact, even though for the sake of argument we granted them, now we're not going to grant them. Here in part 2, we're actually going to roll back even those concessions. But I just wanted to show, for the sake of argument, that even if we made all those concessions about the sources, that they're as bad as they say, that we can still say with confidence that Muhammad existed. But actually, the sources aren't as bad as they say. First of all, we have the Isnad Kumatin analysis. We can reconstruct earlier and earlier redactions of the material back to common links, and we can reach people like, for example, Urwa ibn Zubair. And what do we find in all these transmissions from Urwa? It's the same basic picture. Muhammad, he's in Makkah, then Medina, and so on and so forth, which immediately shows that already at the end of the 1st century, right, a little bit less than 100 years after Muhammad, already it's taken for granted, it's widely accepted that Muhammad is a historical figure who, was in Makkah, Medina, etc., right? And we can do this not just in Medina with Urwa, we can actually do this in many different regions. We can constantly reach back to earlier and earlier sources, right, back to around the end of the 1st Islamic century, and we can, show this over and over. We can reach these common links, and again, wherever we look, Muhammad is presumed to be, is understood to be a historical figure. Even as early as like less than a century after his death, it's widely believed or across the board, there was this guy Muhammad, right? Simple explanation, Muhammad was historical. We also have the Constitution of Medina. And there is an overwhelming consensus of scholars from every background that this is an authentic document. I've literally only found one person who denies this, which is Ohlig, right? Which is a member of the Inara group. which is exactly one of the people under consideration here. Every single other scholar I've ever come across affirms that this is an authentic document because of the criterion of dissimilarity. The point is simple. If it had been created later on, it would look different, right? It goes against the later grain, right? With the like extremely archaic language, the minimal adoration of Muhammad, Jews being part of the Ummah. If it was created later, they wouldn't have written it like this. They would have written it a different way, right? Therefore, it's unlikely it was created later. Simple, right? And what do we find in this ultra early document that goes back to the time of Muhammad, or very close thereto, right? Couldn't have been created later. It mentions Muhammad. He's in Yathrib. He's dealing with the Quraysh. It's clearly the same guy that we're finding, in general in the Islamic tradition is there, right? In this ultra early document that everyone agrees, virtually everyone agrees, is actually an authentic document, right? Already we can see the historical Muhammad there in this text. The argument against this, just pure assertion. Oh, Ahli just asserts it's inauthentic. No, he just asserts it's a fantasy. No argument, no engagement with all the evidence, the argumentation, nothing, right? So, okay, we can throw that out because we have all these strong indications that it's authentic. Then we have the Quran. Now, this is slightly, foreshadowing. We'll only go briefly here, but there are many other arguments which I think we'll go over another time. But in my opinion, there is no question that the Quran goes back to at least the time of Uthman. But Uthman is the one who codifies the Quran. There are multiple independent arguments that all converge on this same point, right? It's rare to have so many points of evidence pointing to the same conclusion, right, in early Islamic history, right? This is such a strongly defensible position. It's amazing that people deny this, right? Here are some examples. No anachronisms. No one has ever shown a clear anachronism in the Quran for later on, right? Everything is compatible with going back to the time of Uthman, right? There's no clear. People sometimes will claim, well, what about this one thing where it says Islam is, in the with God is, is the religion with God or whatever, but I mean, this is completely compatible with the Donner interpretation. You can just say it's Islam here is just literal, right? Submission. It's not actually here the title of the religion. It's easy to reconcile that. There are no clear examples. Right? There's nothing like we find in Hadith. Hadith really are chock full of anachronisms, and there's these very specific prophecies where they're referring to A, B, and C, and it's like clearly later. There's nothing like that in the Quran, right? In fact, the Quran is fundamentally different from Hadith. It looks earlier. The vocabulary is earlier, right? It's the opposite. Right. So it's just, there's no clear anachronisms in the Quran. That's consistent with it goes back to, there's no post-conquest indications in the Quran. Right. There's also trans-sectarian agreement. Everyone agrees. The Shia, the Ibadis, they all agree that Uthman codified the Quran. Right. Again, how do the Umayyads convince the Shia? And then the Ibadis? It's ludicrous. Right. And then finally, we also have the inexpedient agreement. So it isn't just that somehow, like, how do the Ibadis get convinced of an Umayyad narrative? How do they get convinced that it's someone they hate? Right. It's like, this sinful Uthman or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. So there are other arguments as well. Right. So the Quran actually, very likely goes back to the time of Uthman. Right. Which means that we have this source, it's like just a few decades, that mentions Muhammad, mentions he's not the father of any of your men, but he's not naught but a messenger, etc., etc. Right? So we have this guy being attested in this very early text. And then we have the non-Muslim writings. And here's let's remind ourselves, why is it that the mythicists reject that these are authentic? Why do they stipulate, why are they saying that all these are later interpolation? Most of the time, it's just pure assertion. They're just waving a magic wand. Well, magic skepticism one and saying they're all just later interpolations, right? Now there is one argument, right? Ohlig says regarding their Armenian source, pseudo-Sabaeos, right? He says, oh yes, the part about Muhammad contradicts the surrounding parts, right? So it must be a later, interpolation. And so he gives a footnote. So once again, I followed the footnote. And the footnote says, oh, see above where I quote the text. Oh, so there's nothing. There's no actual argument here that this contradicts, right? He's just saying, oh, this contradicts the surrounding area. But he hasn't actually justified that. He just stipulates it. Meanwhile, all the actual relevant experts, there's a consensus from most of these texts that they are early, right? For most of these texts, the overwhelming majority. Now, if we're not specialists in this area, we don't know these sort of late antique Syriac sources, Greek sources, whatever. That's beyond my area of expertise, and it's beyond the area of expertise of most of these people and everyone listening. And so already, since that none of us, including all these mythicists, none of us are really in a position necessarily to weigh in on this. The prudent thing to do is just to default to what the relevant experts have to say. And as it happens, there's consensus for the ones I'm going to mention. All the experts agree on that these are very early. On top of that, though, we can, in general, I can sort of give some general reasons to accept this sort of thing. All right, these are just sort of general. There are some more specific arguments that some of the scholars make for some of the specific texts. So there are additional auxiliary arguments to support this. But this is sort of a general sort of rule of thumb, right? If the text is coherent, it lacks any anachronisms. It's in a scribal context, so it's being continuously transmitted in writing. All of that creates a reason to accept explicit dating, right? So if the text says, "Oh, it's from this year," and everything is consistent with that, and there's nothing inconsistent with that, that's a reason to accept the dating. So when the text explicitly says, "And I wrote this in this year," okay, that's a reason to accept the dating. Right? Just totally arbitrary then to go against that. There's no reason to go against it. Everything is consistent with that. If there's no anachronisms, if it's all coherent, there's a coherent sort of style, whatever, and there's no reason to reject it, right? So that's a reason to accept it. Or alternatively, if there's not an explicit date, but it like refers to an event, then this event, and then it just stops referring to any later events, right? That gives us a reason to think, oh, it's written soon after the last event that it mentions. You see, this is a standard dating method, right? It's just arbitrary. They're just speculating interpolations with no evidence, right? Now, it is possible to argue that there are interpolations in texts, right? But you can't just do it arbitrarily. There has to be a reason, right? The reason here clearly is this is inconvenient for our case, so we're just going to assert that there are interpolations. That's the real reason, right? So we actually have good reason to accept that they're authentic. And so here are some of them, right? Here's Thomas the Presbyter writing around 640, and he says, in the year 634 CE, there was a battle between the Romans and the nomads of Muhammad in Palestine, 12 miles east of Gaza. This is just consistent with being a reference to Muhammad. I mean, who would be the famous Muhammad who had lots of followers at exactly this time? And the later sources say his followers invaded the Middle East and they invaded Palestine. So this corroborates that, right? This is consistent with that. And here are all these scholars who affirm this dating, right? Andrew Palmer, Robert Hoyland, James Howard Johnston, Michael Penn, Sean Anthony, Stephen Shoemaker. All of these relevant specialists agree on the dating, right? It's sometime around 640. So there's just no reason to reject that. And we have here an early reference that is consistent with being a reference to the historical Muhammad. This is evidence. This is corroborating evidence that Muhammad existed. Here we have another one, the Chronicler of Khuzestan. Again, Robert Hoyland, Chase Robinson, James Howard Johnston, Stephen Shoemaker, Michael Penn, all agree that this is from around 660. And it mentions that their leader, the leader of the sons of Ishmael, who was attacking the Persian Empire, their leader was Muhammad, right? Again, this is consistent with being a reference early on to this. Here's their invaders, and they have this leader, right, whose name was Muhammad, right? This is another corroboration that Muhammad, for the historical Muhammad, right? And then finally, we have Pseudo-Sabaeus. This is the Armenian source. And again, Robert Hoyland, James Howard Johnston, Stephen Shoemaker, Sean Anthony, Tim Greenwood, they all agree that it's from around the 660s. And in fact, Shoemaker is arguing, and not just Shoemaker, that he's actually quoting an even earlier source, right? An earlier Palestinian source from like the 640s or something. At that time, a man appeared from among the same sons of Ishmael, whose name was Muhammad, clearly the same guy. He's a guy in Arabia. His name is Muhammad. He's a religious preacher. He's emphasizing Moses and Abraham. He prescribes these basic rules. He has these followers. The followers invade the rest of the Middle East. It's the same guy. Right? So this is another early corroboration that Muhammad existed. It's clearly the same guy, even if there's some differences on the details here, it's the same guy that's being referred to in the Islamic tradition. The early non-Muslim sources are very clear on this. they strongly corroborate Muhammad existed. It's just through pure stipulation that the mythicists insist that done. We also have a final counter here, and that is regarding the reliability of genealogy, right? So we have recent epigraphic discoveries that corroborate later Arabic Islamic genealogy, right? These sort of inscriptions that mention sort of so and so, son of so and so, son of so and so, earlier on, and then we look in the later sources and we find, oh yeah, there's this, this person is reported later on, and clearly we have a number of names that are all the same, clearly referring to the same person, and so on. And there've been a number of examples like this in the sort of recent spate of discoveries. Now, look, not every example is like this. People often jump the gun when there's only like two names and they're common names. Like, okay, this is equivocal. But there are other examples where it's like really clear, right? So people remember what Kroner said. They remembered Muhammad had followers, some of whose names were remembered, right? And so this is actually clearly true. And we have cases of this. People are accurately remembering their ancestors from earlier on in Arabia, right? Additionally, there are recent studies of early Arabian genealogy, right? The sort of marriage patterns in the early sort of Islamic Hijaz and things like that, where these coherent patterns emerge, right? Which is consistent with them being authentic and with genuine sort of patterns of sort of tribal alliances and so on, right? For these sort of preferences in marriage and so on, which again validates the sort of genealogical information. There's a consensus in the genealogical sources regarding Muhammad's basic relationships, his parents, his wife, his daughter. And we have all this general evidence that seems to show that genealogy in particular seems to have been very well preserved. So in other words, Muhammad is preserved in a particularly reliable layer of historical information, you see? So this is further strength on top of everything else we've said, regarding Muhammad's historicity, further sort of a corroboration for that. So, the evidence is, in fact, much better than the mythicists would have us believe, even if we grant so much to the mythicists regarding how bad the sources are, the state of the sources, we can still get to a confident conclusion. But of course, the sources aren't that bad, and there's even more strength here to add to the conclusion that Muhammad likely existed. To make a long story short, even accepting the worst case scenario in terms of the sources, it is very likely that Muhammad existed. But of course, the sources aren't so bad, right? We actually have a more optimistic scenario with the sources. They aren't as bad as the mythicists make them out. We can reach earlier in various ways. And so it's almost certain that Muhammad existed. So either way, Muhammad existed. The end.